Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. I hope you're having a fantastic Memorial Day weekend, enjoying those barbecue cookouts and everything. It is a sweltering 90 freaking degrees in Louisiana. And if I never have to go through a summer like this again, it can never be soon enough. It's so hot, so hot. I hope everybody's enjoying their weather in their area, and it isn't as sweltering hot as it is here. And I hope that you guys are having a great weekend. So, this week we're going to be talking about something we never talk about, and that's the real estate moguls that always have all the advice for us peons in the real world, with all their real estate knowledge. So, we have three different articles that give these guys their platform to say what they want to say about the real estate. I want to get your opinion when we go through these articles on some of the quotes that they've made and get your opinion on what you think. If they're just saying words or, is their advice good advice? Let's see. And some of them even made some predictions. So it'll be fun to kind of go back. We could play a little back in time, a little time shift to see if any of the stuff that they had said about their predictions was going to be true. One, I will say, I thought was really funny, was that well, we'll get into it. I'll tell you who it is in a minute. But I do want to give a little shout out to Charlton. He was the first one to give a little comment here. And I think we need to give him a little comment. And if you notice in the side here now, hold on, you see here, look, your comments now show up on the screen in the corner. Isn't that cool? I thought that was cool. I don't know how to make it any bigger, but you're over here. You can say all sorts of stuff and you can see it on the screen. So, all right. King in the City is here. The first lawnmower is here. Debbie Brady's here. Debbie Johnson is here. All right. It's so good to see all of you guys. I know that everybody's enjoying their weekend. So it should be a quiet Sunday. So if you guys have any questions during the stream, 99.9999% chance it's probably going to end up on the screen, even no matter how ridiculous it is. So Eddie, with Charlton's first question, let's go ahead and put it on the screen before we get into our articles. I have to tell you, this week was absolutely the quietest weekend for real estate articles that I've ever seen. Like there was nothing riveting going on. That's for sure. It was all the same old stuff. All right. Charlton's question: besides credit rating, does felony convictions affect insurance rate and mortgage loans? So we did a little digging. Yes. Does a felony affect car insurance rates? For the purpose of car insurance, felonies fall into two primary categories: driving related and non-driving related violations. An offense involving a vehicle will impact your daily ability to get fine car insurance policy and your rates more than the non-driving violation. If you're convicted of a driving related felony, expect some serious insurance implications. But that has to go with your if you were getting a house as well. If your felony doesn't relate to have anything to do with mortgages, like any kind of felony conviction has nothing to do with mortgages, you're going to be able to get a mortgage as long as you have been paying your bills on time. And they don't care. The banks don't care what you've been convicted of, as long as it has nothing to do with mortgage fraud. I think you're fine. Insurance rates, again, unless you were convicted of some kind of insurance scam against if you set your own house on fire, then you're going to have I remember we talked about last week, we talked about something called a clue report. So the clue report follows the house. So whoever moves in that house and anything that's happened to that house, it stays with the house. But you also, as a customer, have a report on you. So if you were to be the cause of a house being up for, on fire or something like that, that is going to be on your record as well. So that would affect your insurance rate. Great question. I don't know if you meant it seriously or not, but I was interested enough to go ahead and put it up on the screen. Clark, the realtor, is here. He says, happy Sunday, everyone. I want to thank everybody, to every veteran who has served in this Memorial Day weekend. My dad is a veteran of the Air Force. He was in the Korean War, if you guys didn't know that. And my brother, Vince, was a Green Beret, no lie, Green Beret in the military, medic Green Beret at that. And he was in the Panama invasion back, I think that was early 90s, late 80s, around there. Yep. So interesting. MH08 says, I trust my mechanic. Yeah. I don't know if I trust mine sometimes. My son's mother says, hello, everyone. Hello. It's good to see you. Noreen says, happy Sunday. Annie's Shenanigans says, hello from very hot Cape Coral, Florida. It is 90 degrees here, Annie. Very hot. Peter, how's it going, my friend? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Noreen, what's with the large mug? Tea? Oh, what's in it? It's tea. It's tea. It's my PG tips. I love me some PG tips. It's actually really good for your throat. I found that out on a podcast. They were talking about my teacup, and they said, "Oh, you should drink scalding hot tea before a podcast because it keeps your throat clear." I don't know how true that is, but I've been doing it for years. So, Overjoyed says, "Happy Sunday." Debbie Brady says, Memorial Day for those who died for our country. Vets Day for everyone who served. Armed Forces for those who are currently serving. Correct. Lawnmower says, my father was in Korea too before he was a pilot. Got wounded at K6. 35 years later, I was stationed there. Oh, how fun. That's interesting because you walk in your footsteps of your dad. That's neat. Noreen says, I used to drink tea daily, and PG Tips was my favorite of all time. Yeah, I like this one, and there's another tea brand. What's the other one I like, Eddie, that's in the tin?
Yorkshire.
Yeah, Yorkshire Gold. Yorkshire Gold. Overjoyed says it's 90. See, this is too hot. It's too hot right now. It's not even June. All right, so it's up to you, the audience. Which one do you want to hear first? Do you want to hear from Grant Cardone? Do you want to hear from Dave Ramsey? Or do you want to hear from good old Warren Buffett? Tell me who you want to hear from, because we got articles on all three of them. I don't know if you guys caught it, but I made Dave Ramsey into a baby. I should have put that on the computer so they could have seen it. I made baby Dave Ramsey. I'm going to find him so you guys can see it, because he says some wackadoodle stuff. And I shouldn't give my personal opinion about him, but sometimes he's kind of a classist, and he loves to say negative things about people that live, not about them personally, but he likes to say that, that living in a mobile home is a terrible idea. But I mean, I don't think he's realistic in what's going on in the world today. So here he is, Mr. Dave Ramsey, the baby.
Why is this hard? So a mobile home is like a car you sleep in. It goes down in value. And listen, there's nothing snobbish about.
Yeah, he's even covering his tracks. He's like, oh wait, maybe I said something kind of classist. Oh, it's nothing snobbish to say it's a car you sleep in. So, he really did say that. I just took the audio and turned him into a baby. Lamer says, oof, my legs are blasted. I did 22 miles this morning. Running? Did you run? Warren Buffett. We're going to hear from the Buffett himself. Warren Buffett. You all have spoken. Oh, Robin said Dave Ramsey. We'll listen to him next. Warren Buffett likes his music. Different Buffett. MHO8 says Buffett tells you what he bought, so you'll buy it and pump it up. Dave Ramsey helped me get out of debt, but he's a bit out of touch with reality and some of his advice. I think baby Dave Ramsey had great advice for the way that money worked when he was coming up and as he got a bit older. But in the last 15 years, the advice isn't solid. It isn't practical. Like at one time people could do what he said, to do. Yes, it made perfect sense. But the way that things cost today, it would be impossible. You can't do that. So like, he's like, oh, always get a 15-year mortgage and then put this amount of money down. I'm like, people have freaking student loan debt and all this other stuff. I don't know. Anyways, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway predicts a major housing market shift soon. Americans looking to buy a home may see a new trend emerge. Over the past few years, home buyers have navigated a challenging housing market marked by raising prices, stubborn mortgage rates. These factors have young, hesitant buyers, leading to many to postpone buying a home as they wait for housing conditions to improve. By the way, speaking of that, I don't know if you've seen, but people aren't buying it. Remember a few months back, not even, maybe it was like 6 weeks ago, I said, this housing market is going to be Deadsville. And sure enough, what's happening? People ain't buying. They're not buying. And sellers aren't coming down with their price. It's just kind of like ongoing market gridlock as broader economic uncertainty have further weakened buyer confidence this year. As a result, home buyers are seeking alternatives to afford rising housing costs and care for their aging family members. So this article goes on to say that he thinks that the multi-generational homes were that were common until 19th century when suburban construction and affordable housing improved. However, multifamily homes have made a resurgence. Berkshire Hathaway and the Home Services anticipates home construction and home buying may shift towards a multi-generational living. So he's saying because that everybody is so house burdened with house payments and that people now people's income is 42% of it is going towards housing, especially towards younger generations. Some of them even are above that number. What he's saying, well, they're going to make a solution in the fact of multi-generational housing. And, we used to do that. In 2010, there were only 5.1 million multi-generational households. But by 2020, that figure jumped to 6 million as the average home sales continue to surpass 500,000 and mortgage rates inch back up towards 7%. Housing market experts anticipate more home buyers seeking multi-family homes. Yep. Pooling those resources, splitting the finances, caring for aging family members are among the top reasons home buyers are looking to live with extended family. However, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services believes the shift is towards multi-generational homes to boost the housing market. And I'm seeing a lot more home builders, like the big tract builders, because I don't think it's just because of what he said, but some of these big tract builders in more congested cities that are still building single family homes instead of building smaller, because we all would love smaller homes. What they're doing is building houses that already have an apartment in them. So like they'll move like the garage space, or they'll make a what used to be the bonus room, they'll turn that into a small apartment. So many housing industry professionals view multi-generational families as an untapped market for home builders, but it's a goldmine for remodelers who can figure out how to design comfort, agronomic, and energy efficient updates for the multi-generational homes. The Berkshire Hathaway Home Services blog noted, if you're going to do this and you're doing it for aging parents, please do not put your parents upstairs. Like, do not do that. Make it so that they can be on the ground floor. It's hard for them to walk upstairs. Features that would make the home more functional and flexible living spaces for both privacy, toughness, separate entrances, living quarters for adult generations, and universal design elements that will be accessible for seniors and disabled household members. What do you know? I just said that. That finding significant inventory to match the demand of multi-generational homes may be a bit of roadblock. Perhaps the biggest challenge is the most existing homes for sale, as well as new homes by builders, are designed for a majority of home buyers, the single family home. I want you to know, though, that home builders right now, if you are looking for a home and you were looking in the area, home builders are giving even more incentives. Even though there's the housing market has slowed down in many, many markets, new home construction is still able to keep up. And the way they're doing it is, like I've been telling you, they're offering lower interest rates, they're offering more amenities, and they're offering bigger upgrades. So that makes it more appealing to a home buyer, because why would they buy the house down the street for $400,000 where they were not getting any of those things, where they would pay a lot more? They're not getting anything new as far as flooring is concerned. They don't even get to choose it. So existing home sales are in a slump while new construction is still moving. So just be aware, there's deals out there to be made. If you're in the market, go see what the new construction has available for you, because you might be able to get yourself a good deal. A Attorney says, first time catching a live show. Welcome. Oh, we got a super chat. We haven't had those in a long time. Welcome, Jennifer. Thank you. Hello, Kristina. Question.
Super chat. Thank you.
Do you and Eddie have any advice for updating a kitchen? Do I need to do a total remodel at once? Well, this would depend on what you're planning on getting done, right? And if you have a limited budget, I would say start with one big thing at once, right? I wouldn't, if you're planning on replacing your, all of your appliances, like your stoves, your microwaves, and all that, don't replace the cabinets or anything until you've replaced the appliances first, because the sizes can vary. And then you may decide to put a drop-in stove instead of one of those oven stove combinations. Decide what you're going to do with your appliances first and then move from there. And then the next thing you would want to upgrade is either the cabinets or the countertops. Those two things always home buyers love, and if you're wanting to update it, that's where I'd say look next. The next thing you want to look at is all of the light fixtures and your your sink fixtures as well, right? Your faucets, that kind of thing. Those add those finishing touches that make it look more polished. Now, if you're wanting to do it on a budget friendly, kitchen update, just paint your cabinets. Like, find a way to sand, paint, do it the right way. Don't just slap paint on there. Do it the right way. And just updating your the hardware on your cabinets can make a huge difference, and updating your sink faucets can make a huge difference. If you wanted to go the cheapest route possible, replace out hardware, lighting, and faucets. Boom. It already starts to make it look a lot more modern if that's where you're wanting to go. So that's my advice to you. Great question. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. I hope you're having a fantastic Memorial Day. Overjoyed says multi-generational housing made sense, built in babysitters, etc. Made great financial sense too. And families were closer. Yeah, I think I think that Warren Buffett is correct about this. I'm hearing more and more people that are my age that are saying, well, my kids, they can't afford a $400,000 house. I mean, they're just getting out of college, or they're just starting a college career. They're not going to be able to do that. And I want them to be able to save to buy their first house instead of like renting an apartment, because apartments aren't coming down in price either. So this gives them their own individual space, and then they can stay there until they're ready to set sail. Remember they used to call it failure to launch? Well, there's no failure anymore because it's just too expensive. And then if you have that empty space, it gives an opportunity for your aging parents to move in. The cost of home care, nursing homes, those kinds of things are so out of reach for many families that the best thing to do is to bring them back into your home. So if you have that designated space and everybody can pool their money together to have that designated space, it gives everybody an opportunity to help take care of aging parents. I think it's a fantastic idea. I'd love to get your opinion in the comments section. I agree with Warren Buffett on this one. Matter of fact, he, I don't know if you know this, but he owns Clayton Homes, and they are making multi-generational mobile homes as well. So it's like a side-by-side mobile home where it's like a duplex, basically, mobile home. So, I mean, he's putting the money where his mouth is. He believes it's going to be one of those things. I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments section. So put that in there. Rick Smith says the U.S. is not family oriented. I think that's culturally wrong. It depends on where you live. Like here, where I live in Louisiana, heck yeah, it is. Matter of fact, it's so family oriented. You can go into some neighborhoods where you think it's a neighborhood, and then you're looking at the names and it will say Irwin Villar Road, and then it says Darla Road and Uncle Jesse Road and all this. All the roads are because that's the family members that live down that specific road. They bought a big tract of land and they all built their own individual houses. People here are very, very, very family oriented. So I think that depends. I think it depends. Now, where I lived in Orlando, Florida, absolutely not. No, they were not. I would not say that was a family oriented city. I mean, you may have a different opinion, but when we lived there, I did not feel family oriented, that's for sure. But no, I think there is many areas that are very family oriented. You can't just stick one whole label on the whole entire country and say Americans are not family oriented. I don't believe that. Peggy says, question, have you heard of a bank requiring $24,000 wind insurance policy. My grandson and his wife are located in North Tallahassee in a great area with excellent schools. So any bank can require any kind of coverage to protect their investment. So like there's many areas in Florida and here in Louisiana that they may not be in the flood zone, but in order to get the policy from that specific insurance company or from the lender itself, they are trying to protect their asset. And so they're going to require some people to carry flood insurance, even though they're not in a flood zone, even though wouldn't be technically required because it's not in the floodplain, but they're so concerned with the rise of climate change and more wild weather, unprecedented weather, that they do require people to have that kind of coverage on their policy in order for them to carry you. Yes. So I haven't heard that specifically about wind, but it doesn't surprise me. Not at all. Windstorm insurance. Yep. How it works and who needs it. Eddie pulled this up for you. Windstorm insurance pays for damage to your home caused by winds, frequently damaged roofs, siding, and soffits and gutters. A standard HO3 policies and most other home insurance types automatically include wind as covered in peril. However, homeowners insurance companies can exclude or limit this coverage in areas that are high risk or frequent wind damage. So yeah, they're just protecting their asset if you're carrying a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. They're just concerned about it. So they want them to go ahead and have that coverage on there. Yep. That's what's happening. Yep. Rick says multi-generational housing no longer works in the U.S. I mean, I don't think it works everywhere. Like, I don't think it would work in Mississippi. I don't necessarily think it would work in the small town that I live outside of Baton Rouge because the housing, I mean, there's so much housing available. But in the bigger cities or the outside of the bigger cities, I still think it's very possible and doable. It also gives you an opportunity to have, let's just say this, if you were to have one of the houses that had a lower level kind of apartment and unfortunately your parents have passed away and your kids have moved on, you could move somebody in there and they could rent that space out. They have their own entryway and now you have yourself an income producing property. There's lots of ways to look at this. I think it's a great idea. If I was to build again, that's something I would think about. That's for sure, especially as my parents get up in years. Yep. Jennifer Lego says, countertop, replace butcher block with quartz, extend it to install a dishwasher. I'll refinish the cabinets. My appliances are okay. Budget for flooring later. Yeah. I don't know how what your flooring looks like. That's another one. I have to update. I have dogs and animals, as you guys know, and they have done a number on my engineered wood floors. So I was told when we got this house that, oh, they're super durable, but they didn't tell us. I mean, you could whisper across these things and they scratch. So I have to have them refinished. And there's a guy in our area that says they can refinish engineered wood floors. I hope he's right. I have a bunch of replacement stuff in the attic. I hope he's right because, I mean, if I was a buyer, I'd be like, yikes. I don't like that. You know? Lawnmower says, make sure all light bulbs and fixtures are the same color temp. Yep. Some people freak out when they're different colors. You know what? When you're selling your home too, pay attention to what people say about the lighting in the comments of your listing. You know, when people start coming in, they usually have some kind of form that goes out. And if they say, well, the house felt very dark or it just felt too yellow, like the house had too warm, that means the lighting is incorrect for your house. So, you know, pay attention to that. That was actually good advice. Thanks, Lawnmower. Charlton says, question, does home insurance cover mold damage from storm damage or new construction mistakes? Okay, as far as the mold concern, so that it would be depending on where did the mold come from. If the mold came from a flood disaster, then yes, it would be covered under the flood, but you have had to have treated your home correctly from the get-go, and you have to document every step of the way when you treat your house for mold, because we're really we're pros here in Louisiana for treating homes right after a flood and how you're supposed to do it and how you're supposed to air it out and document pictures, dates that you've done it, the chemicals that you use, the lot number of the chemical that you used in order to treat the mold on all your 2x4s, how far you cut up on the drywall. Did you replace the insulation in the walls? What did you replace it with? Did you cut that high enough? Like, you have to document all that stuff if you're doing it yourself, which you can do it. I'm honestly, waiting for somebody to come out to do it and do it right is really difficult. So just do it yourself. Just document everything. But that has to do with flooding, and yes, they'll cover that. But if it has to do with new construction and there was a problem with the new construction in the mold, that's on the home builder. And you would have to either talk to an attorney or you can have them address it. You do a certified letter that would go to the home builder and say, look, these are the mold. I've already had a mold test done to this house. Like the air conditioner's too small or too big for the area. There's water coming inside the house. Then most states have a new home warranty act that's covered from the first year. And if you have been documenting that from the get-go, you have a case for them to repair it. Insurance companies also can require some areas to have extra mold coverage. I haven't seen that here in Louisiana because most people, mold coverage has to do with their flood insurance. So yes, great question. Good job. MH08 says, I keep a two square inch patch of black mold as a pet. Oh, don't breathe it in, bud. Don't breathe it in. That's not good. They say that causes some dementia. Don't do that. Debbie Brady says, I have 3 sisters. All 3 have the sum of their family still living with them. Don't tell me that the U.S. isn't family oriented or doesn't accommodate multi-generations. I think it depends on the family. I mean, let's be honest, not all of us want to have our family living with us for the rest of our lives. I can name a few family members that I'm like, nope, they're not moving in. Not moving in, We're talking about, the family members we want to be around, SB says, oops, lost track of time. You're not too far off. You're only 27 minutes and 39 seconds late. Who's counting? I'm just glad you're here. Charlton says, I try, very detailed in my old age. Thank you. Well, you don't look old. You look like young. I thought you were my age, Charlton. MH08 says, would only somebody with dementia keep black mold as a pet? Interesting question. But we need to go to our next question after this. We're going to go to Kay My Way, and then we're going to either talk about Grant Cardone or baby Dave Ramsey. So you let me know in the comment section. I'll be reading this question and answering it. So either baby Dave Ramsey or Grant Cardone. You let me know which one you want to hear from about next. Kay My Way says, who are buying all the luxury homes if the average American cannot afford it? You want to know who's buying it? Boomers. Boomers buy a lot of housing. And even in the last housing boom, the boomers were buying their second and third houses. They hold the most wealth and they are buying the most homes. They have a lot of more expendable cash and they're putting it in real estate. They're buying houses. And that and you're going to hear, in a couple weeks, I have a video coming out talking about vacancy rate, because there's this theory going around that says that, we just need to put all the vacant homes on the market and then we won't have a housing shortage, affordable housing crisis, because there won't be a shortage. And that's actually ridiculous, because a lot of that vacancy rate has to do with people owning 2-3 houses. They just don't happen to live in them year round, and you can't force them to sell it. I mean, that's ridiculous. So if someone says that to you, just kind of point them out to the facts. That's just not how this works. That's not how any of this works. I don't know if anybody remembers that commercial. Who do we decide on? Is it baby Dave Ramsey, or is it going to be Oh, we got 2 on Grant Cardone though. I see 2 on Grant. Oh, we got 3 on Grant. Good old Grant. Vacancy tax. That's not a bad idea. Oh, that's not a bad idea. Christopher John says, I think mobile homes might be a viable solution to the land I want. Yes, I'm sure they are. Yep. All right. I think we're baby Dave. Hey, YouTube Unfolded. Good to see you again. Oh, I feel like we have a 50-50 split. All right, we're gonna have Eddie. Baby Dave is last. Okay. I want to hear what let's hear what Baby Dave has to say. I'm sorry, guys. Let's hear from Grant Cardone. I you know what? I have to tell you, he's a fellow Louisiana dude. Yeah, Grant Cardone says owning a home isn't smart. He doesn't want you to own anything. He doesn't want younger generations to own anything. He says it's a bad decision. I said, given how much home prices have soared in America, many homeowners are facing a fleeing, maybe feeling richer than ever. But real estate mogul Grant Cardone says, your house isn't a smart investment. Far from it. He says, I'm 49 years old and have nothing saved from. He said, don't miss you. Okay, never mind. That may sound ironic coming from someone who is known for investing in real estate, residential real estate. But Grant Cardone was quick to explain a home doesn't have cash flow. You don't get a big tax write-off because of it. You have no leverage. You're living in it. You're paying for it. You own it. You never own it. And even when the loan is paid off, you don't own it. No, you still got property taxes, and that still got to insure, and you still got to maintain it. Okay, let's break this down, and you guys can say this in the comment section as well. Okay, first off, owning a home, it has expenses. So absolutely right. And truth be told, yes, you never technically own it because you always have to pay property taxes. Gotcha. Always have to pay insurance. Some people that own it outright never pay property insurance. Believe it or not, it's happening more and more. With that being said, the cost of living is so incredibly high that you couldn't tell an elderly person their property taxes are still going to be cheaper than living in an assisted living facility. They're going to be hell of a lot cheaper than living in an apartment complex. And it's their home. Secondly of all, you have equity that you've built in your house over those last 30 years. To say you have no leverage in that house is absolutely ridiculous. That's why people do reverse mortgages. That's why people do HELOCs. There's all these different ways to tap into the equity in the house that you live in, so that way you can afford to do other things in your life, whether that's to put your kids through school, whether that's to buy another rental property. And let's just on top of that, right? Let's say you're one of these people that got one of those multi-generational homes. Sure, it's a house you live in. Now you have other family members living there. Like I said earlier, you could take that multi-generational home now that your parents have moved on to, moved on, and then your kids have moved out. You can now turn that into a rental down below, right? So now you have an income producing property. Not only that, you can still leverage the equity that's in that house. So now that person's either paying your mortgage or they're paying your property taxes. So to tell kids, and that's who he's talking to, telling them not to buy a house, I think he's doing that. And this is my personal opinion, because he's part of that whole narrative. Never buy a house, rent for the rest of your life, so you can be in the working wheel until the day you die. I mean, call me crazy, a conspiracy theorist, whatever, but there is a whole little group of them that say this constantly, and they keep drilling it on these podcasts over and over and over again. And it's bad advice. It's my personal opinion. I believe it's terrible advice. What I really want for young people is to maybe not think of a house as the first house being the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, right? Maybe your first house should be a small sliver of land, maybe a tiny home, maybe a mobile home, something you can afford that would be nearly half of what the average rent is in your area, not renting that piece of land, owning that piece of land. And believe it or not, in 15 years, you would have that paid off. Would the house be worth anything afterwards? Maybe, maybe not, but the land would be. And then you can leverage that piece of property, either A, sell it or start renting it out. And then you can use that as money that you're getting in, income producing property. And then you could buy your next house from that. And you didn't have to pay a landlord for the last 15 years. That's a hell of a lot smarter than what Grant's saying, which is rent for 15 years. And what the hell do you have after that? Dude, he makes me so mad. Like, honest to God, sometimes he says the crudest, rudest, insane stuff. But that's just me. When you buy a home, you live in it. It's true. That doesn't generate any cash flow. We just talked about that. And even once the mortgage is paid off, there are still ongoing costs, property taxes, insurance premiums, repairs, maintenance, and they still add up fast. A 2024 bank rate study found that hidden expenses of owning a single family home in the United States is about $18,118 per year. That is absolute horse baloney. Who's paying $18,000 a year in hidden costs? That is, whoever came up with this is horse. This is ridiculous. Covering everything from property taxes, insurance, to maintenance. Okay, if you're including insurance, but that's not a hidden cost, and neither is property taxes, repairs, and utility bills. That is still not a hidden cost. In other words, expect to spend nearly $20,000 annually on top of your mortgage payments. But those aren't hidden costs. What, you think you own a home, you don't have to pay utilities? Who wrote this? Cardone says that what keeps people from recognizing the financial downside is emotion. Oh, we're way too emotional. Apparently, I am too. People get emotional about their house. It's my house, he said. It ain't your house. You're a partner in this house with the state. Oh, Grant. Never buy a house, he says. Cardone's suggestion is simple. Never buy a house, rent to where you live. But that doesn't mean he isn't against real estate entirely. Okay. I'm not saying don't own real estate, he clarified. I'm saying live in a house and pay rent. Take all that money that you would have spent on that house and invest in real estate that cash flows, that pays you every month. You know, like he's making it sound like kids today have all the money in the world and they can pay rent and start investing in real estate adventures. Because, you know, they're not making a decision between making their student loan payments and eating. Oh, he's such a dingleberry. So what kind of real estate is he talking about? Cardone listed several options. You could be retail, storage, apartment buildings like we invest in. Could be land. If you're a farmer or rancher, you know how to get the cows and cash flow, then do it. One way to tap into this market is by investing in shares of vacation homes and rental properties, backed by world-class investors, including Jeff Bezos. Allows for you to invest in shares of vacation and rental homes. Oh, that wasn't a plug right there. They want you to invest in this company called Arrived. Okay. Earning a passive income stream without the extra work that comes with being a landlord of owning a rental property. So you don't even have to worry about anything. Go ahead and rent, take the extra money that you would have and invest in the companies like Arrive. Oh, this wasn't a plug at all. To get started, simply browse through the selection of vetted properties, each picked with their personal potential, appreciation, and income generation. Once you choose the property, you can start investing with as little as $100, potentially earning a quarterly dividends. Oh my God. So, you know, there had to be, thank you. There always had to be a hidden agenda. Jennifer Lego says, hit that like button, set all notifications on. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Jennifer. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah. I didn't realize that renters don't have to pay utilities. Someone should have tell my landlord. Yeah. And apparently you don't have to pay renters insurance either. Because, you know, when did those things become hidden costs? Hidden baloney. YouTube Unfolded. Rent is from him is what he means. Exactly. Rent from him and invest in his company. Arrive. Peter says Grant Cardone is one of the questionable moral character. I don't trust anything he has to say. I'm going to tell you this was years ago. This was back in 2018. And I was at a real estate conference and there was a bunch of people like gassing this guy up. And I was like, oh, I'm going to look into him. And I watched his YouTube channel and he was doing a live stream. I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud, but he was literally having a conversation about the intimate relationships that he was having with his wife the night before and laughing about it with his buddies like, ugh. And I'm like, I said to my husband, if I was his significant other, he and I would be throwing down that night because that is not something you publicize on a YouTube live stream. From that moment on, my opinion has been tainted. I don't know if the dude has good advice or not, but that to me, when you said moral character, that moral character point that I saw, I didn't care what he had to say. To me, it was just gross. So anyways, GGAZ 2012 says, I don't like or trust Grant Cardone. I wonder if he is a voice for Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab, yeah, who said you'll own nothing and be happy. Yeah, that's what I was saying about the whole conspiracy theory thing. Because they say it's a conspiracy theory, but I do think there is a truck of very rich, influential people that perpetuate this. Matter of fact, I've shown on many, many times. They on 60 Minutes about 3 years ago, they were talking to a guy from I forget the firm, but basically what they were doing is buying and building as many homes through the Sunbelt area as they can, and they were all those small starter home type of homes. And the guy's from Canada, and he's in this like leather members only jacket, and he had his hair all fluffy, and I don't know what he was doing because he didn't look like that in any other advertising but this particular one. And he was like, the thing is that the American dream's not dead. We're just resurfacing it in a whole new way. We're repackaging it because young people don't want to live in old homes. They want a new home every few years, and this gives them the opportunity. We are in a we're in a sharing economy, and in that sharing economy, we're opening the doors for them to have a new house every few years. Young people don't want to rent, to own. They want to rent. I'm like, dude, who the hell are you selling this to? Because I smell some more, you know what? And that smelled like hot vomit garbage to me. That is a lie. But I mean, he made it happen. All right, we said, Kristina, I have a little money to my name, and I had to listen to people who don't believe in owning a home. Well, you can own a home. The idea of your home might be different than what you would probably imagined, but there is opportunities for you to own something that you can live in. And I'm not talking about a van by the river. I'm talking about a real house. It just not be the house that you always wanted. Rod says, it seems like the article takes some of his quotes and blends it in with the author's promotional content, like arrived. Could be. I actually heard him say that on a podcast, though. The Grant Cardone. I put that clip in a video a couple weeks back where he was talking to a young man on a young man's podcast, telling them to do this, and all these guys are just nodding their head, and I'm like, I know the guy's rich, and it's easy to listen to somebody that just arrived in a Lamborghini, and think that all of his advice is golden. But I want people to kind of step back and think for a little bit. What's the ultimate reason why he would want you to do that? What's the downside of renting for 15 years? Do you have enough expendable income that you can pay 42% of your income towards renting instead of owning. Just think about it is all. Mark says, buy a property, put a $100 rent 10 on it. You can. There's people that do it. There's a girl that she started off with just a piece of dirt, and then she had a pop-up trailer, and then after that she got herself a tiny home, and now she grows all of her own food on that piece of land that she owned. She actually even got that land at a auction. So you just a little bit different, but it worked. Brenda says, I don't either trust Grant Cardone on my age at 71. I just don't trust him. There's something a little off. Something, I don't know. Get a little bit of the ick. Renting long-term is not feasible. I agree. I concur. All right. We have one more person we got to talk about. One more guru. Who's left? It's baby Dave Ramsey. We got baby Dave Ramsey. And those of you who didn't see it earlier, let me show you baby Dave Ramsey because it's funny. Because baby Dave Ramsey likes to be funny, But I'm pulling him up. Here we go. Baby Dave Ramsey. Here we go. Oh, come on.
Why is this hard? So a mobile home is like a car you sleep in. It goes down in value. And listen, there's nothing snobbish about.
Yeah. Okay. So baby Dave Ramsey doesn't want you to live in a mobile home.
Super chat.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark, for being a member. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. All right. Let's show what Dave Ramsey has to say. Housing market predictions in 2025 by Dave Ramsey. Will it crash? Bum, bum, bum. Let's see what Dave Ramsey has to say. Housing market predictions say, I've been keeping a close eye on it myself. Ramsey's outlook aligns with what I'm seeing on the ground. While frantic pace of the past few years has certainly cooled down, the fundamental factors that would lead to a major crash don't seem to be in place. Let's dive a little deeper into what Ramsey's data is suggested for the end of the year. I will say I saw a podcast with his own podcast where he was saying at the beginning of the year, he's like, oh, interest rates are going to go down. We're going to go down and we're going to see a whole new explosion of home buying. And then he just admitted recently, he goes, yeah, I don't know if you really should listen to me about this because I thought mortgage rates were going to come down at the beginning by this time this year. And I thought there was going to be an explosion in housing. So what do I know? At least he admitted it. It says if you're holding out for mortgage rates to return to those sweet 3% days, Ramsey suggests it's time to adjust your expectations. The Mortgage Banker Association indicated that the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage rate peaked at 7.79 in 2023 and has settled down somewhere around the 6.89 range at the start of 2025. Ramsey's prediction is that we will likely see rates stabilize at the 6.5 mark, but significantly drop below that isn't anticipated. Factors like ongoing inflation and the Federal Reserve's policy will continue to play a role in keeping rates at a moderate level. I'm going to give you this. So the way the things are rolling, I say we're going to be in the 8s by the end of this year. It may even happen sooner. I'm just saying, I think it's very possible that mortgage rates could be in the 8s, but that's just I'm not saying this is just my prediction. Don't make any financial decisions by anything that I say. I'm just a stupid YouTuber. I just want to make that clear. My take on this is I agree with Ramsey. The era of ultra cheap mortgages was largely an anomaly. While I wouldn't rule it out, minor fluctuations, I think, are a return to those rock bottom rates. It is unlikely in the near future. If you're solid financial position to buy, waiting for a significantly lower rate could mean missing out on the home you love, especially if prices continued on the upward trend, even at a slower pace. Now is a good time to buy, is it? Let's see what it says. Forget about trying to find the perfect Forget trying to perfectly time the market. It's a fool's errand, says Ramsey. The real question isn't about the perfect market conditions, but rather, are you in a good financial position to buy? Here's what Dave Ramsey's straightforward advice on if it's a good time for you to buy. Are you completely debt free, including your mortgage? Have you fully funded an emergency fund that covers 3 to 6 months of living expenses? Can you comfortably afford a 15-year fixed rate mortgage with monthly payments that are no more than 25% of your take home pay? I don't agree with the 15-year mortgage thing. All the other stuff so far I do. Have you a solid down payment? While 20% down payment is ideal to avoid private mortgage insurance, Ramsey acknowledges that 5 to 10% can be workable for first-time home buyers. He generally advises FHA and VA loans due to their additional fees. In my experience, Ramsey's principles are spot on, but buying a home is a huge financial commitment, and going into it with strong financial foundation is the best way to ensure long-term success and peace of mind, regardless of the short-term market fluctuations. All right, stop right there real quick. I'm going to say this. He wants you to do a 15-year mortgage. If you, the average price home today is just around 400,000. It's going to be 400,000 up on some areas. It's going to be lower in others, but it's on average around $400,000. The average home buyer, because home prices have increased so incredibly high, is now, it used to be in your 20s, then it went to the 30s, and now it's in the 40s. Now it's in the 40s. People are buying their very first home in their 40s, when it used to be something that somebody did in their late 20s, early 30s. That's because of home prices. If you add the fact that, like, you take off 15 years, that house payment, because most people are payment sensitive, and you're going to add that to that, that's going to dip into a lot of people's income. So I don't think it's reasonable to ask somebody in their 30s to take on a 15-year mortgage if they can't. And paying rent is not the answer. So I disagree with him on this. I think that you should look into 30-year fixed rate mortgages. Talk to your lender about it. Find out what the pros and cons are. If you can't do the 15-year, then go for it. But I'm saying, like, you shouldn't be field shunned because you have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Come on, dude. Come on. All right. So he says, how will Trump's policies affect the housing market? So while Donald Trump, now back in office, many are wondering what impacts his policies will have on the housing market. Ramsey's report correctly points out the presidents don't directly control mortgage rates or housing prices. That is correct. Those are primarily driven by supply and demand. Correct. However, the policies that can churn certainly exert some influence. So zoning laws, we might see efforts to loosen zoning restrictions at a federal level or incentives for states and localities to do so. This could potentially increase the supply of new housing over time, which could help moderate price growth. I can honestly tell you, I started in real estate in 2007 was my first year as a real estate agent. And those policies have been on the books for every single president ever. They all say it. So I mean, I don't know. I don't put a lot of water to it until I see it. Infrastructure spending, the increased investment in infrastructure projects could make certain areas more attractive, potentially boosting the housing values in those regions. I will believe infrastructure when I see it. In the state of Louisiana, every governor under the sun says, we're going to put more in infrastructure. Then they get into office and they may pave one freaking road. But we pay the highest insurance rates as far as car insurance for a reason, because they never fix the infrastructure. All right, federal land use. Opening up more federal land for development could lead to an increase of available housing in some areas. And there's a theory on this. If you increase the supply of homes in the area, that it will help bring home prices down because there's more houses. And that is a good thought. I just don't want them to use national parks. I mean, federal lands, some federal lands are not even meant for, going hiking and enjoying the birds and looking at the deer and that kind of stuff. But I don't think that we should be opening up like the Grand Canyon and putting in uh, townhomes, multi-generational condos. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. For those hoping for a major market crash, Ramsey offers a clear perspective. It's not in the cards for 2025. I agree with this. This aligns with projections from entities like the Federal Home Loan Mortgage Corporation, which anticipates home prices to continue to rise in the coming year, albeit likely a more moderate pace. So the fundamental reasons why it won't crash. Let's just see, because I have my reasons too. Not an oversupply. Unlike 2008 era, we don't have a massive oversupply of homes in the market. That is true. In fact, many areas in inventory remains relatively tight. This is true, except for areas like Phoenix, Arizona, Austin, Texas, some other major cities around Texas, where they've had a lot of new home building. And they're seeing home prices adjust accordingly. So strong buyer demand, despite higher mortgage rates, there is a significant underlying demand for housing. People need places to live, and for many, homeownership remains a key financial goal. Yes, we still have pent up demand. There are a lot of people that do want to buy. They just are not in a position to buy because of home prices. I even did a poll on my channel, like what would make you buy? And every single, I would say 75% of the respondents that were polled, they say it would have to be the price. If they came down on the price, the interest rates, they could refinance later down the road. It's the price. It's the price. So anyways, stricter lending practices. Lending standards are much tighter now than they were in 2008. This means that borrowers generally more qualified and less likely to default on their mortgages. Though, I've seen some more goofy loan packages out there. They're starting to, those lenders want to people to get into debt, right? So I'm starting to see some more sneaky loan practices out there. Yeah. All right. More home equity. Homeowners today typically have more equity in their homes compared to 2008. This is true. Period provided a buffer against potential price declines. This is true. There's a lot of equity that is sitting on homes that wasn't available. Now, the people that bought probably in like 2023, they don't have as much equity, but there wasn't as much buying during that time as there was in 2020, 2021, 2022. I mean, that's when a lot of people were buying, and now they're sitting on a bunch of equity because they did buy at that time. All right. Low foreclosure rates, as reported by Adam. Foreclosure activity continued to drop by 10% in 2024. This trend is expected to continue, and there's a looming wave of foreclosures that would flood the market and drive down prices. That's one thing I want to say. I recently have seen several videos that have come out on the old boob tubes here, and the foreclosures are rising, fast. The thing is, we still to this day are nowhere near the numbers that we were prior to the pandemic. So even though you're seeing a rise in foreclosures, that does not mean that this is a repeat of 2008. When those numbers start going up at a drastic level, then we'll have a discussion about that. But I'm not making on a video about something that is not true. Now, the headlines that you see in the articles will say, foreclosures up 34%, but it's not 34% of what, and then you look and they're not even where they used to be, not even close. Just, I'm not saying there isn't foreclosures out there, but it's not 2008 all over again. It's just not. Rick Smith says, every real estate agent will tell you to buy now. I won't. I won't tell you to buy now. I've told people not to buy. I'm like, hey, take a step back. You got a lot of student loan debt here. We might want to think about that. Talk to your financial advisor. I'm not telling you to buy. Nope. Alara says, Vanguard and BlackRock are the top institutional shareholders in many publicly traded real estate companies, including major REITs, real estate investment trusts. That is 100% true. And yes, they are. And they own They bought a lot of single family homes, by the way, during the last housing crash, right? And that's why we're seeing an increase of homes for rent is because of those kinds of companies. And I will say this because people say BlackRock doesn't own homes. No, they are they are board members and shareholders to the companies that do buy the homes. So they definitely have their hand in the pot when it comes to this, like Invitation Homes, Homes for Rent, all of those companies, they sit on their boards and they're making it happen. And if they didn't have the capital, if that company, let's just say Invitation Homes didn't have the capital, guess what? BlackRock is going to make sure they do have the capital to buy the most affordable homes in the area because they want to own it all. They do. So Kristina says rates will explode. I didn't say explode. I said 8%. I said 8%. I could be wrong. You know, I've just, this is what my jelly belly gut says. Vicky says, I adored and visited New Orleans 30 years ago. Loved it. Since COVID shut down, it's terrible. I won't go back. You know, Vicky, I'm going to tell you this. Eddie and I moved here right after Katrina happened. My husband worked for a company that was helping to get a lot of the infrastructure back on pace for New Orleans. And I watched it, you know, from the point of like, it was in such bad shape and come back. And it was amazing to see. And I loved going down to New Orleans and visiting the restaurants and going to Bourbon Street. I mean, it was awesome. I hate going down now. It's not the same. It is not the same. And it smells like Amsterdam. And if you know what Amsterdam's famous for, you'll know exactly the reference that I'm getting at. It has a gardening smell to it. And you can smell it in the car before you even get down to Bourbon Street. The garden is very strong. So I don't like it as much as I used to. Not even close. I hate it. And then when my girls want to go down there, they're like, "Oh, we're going to go down there to eat." I'm always very nervous, but I'm a mom, so I don't trust real estate, guys. I'm sorry. Ramsey shared his cautionary tale of going bankrupt in his 20s after leveraging debt to invest in real estate. Now he owns $700 million in real estate without a single dollar debt. Yeah, good on him. I'm not saying, and I'll like, you may have not heard me say this before. His advice during the time that he was probably the most popular and sold the most, it was great. It was great for that period of time. The economic factors that were happening during in those years are not the same pain points that people are living in today. The incomes, the wage stagnation, the student loan debt, the availability for people to earn as much money as he did when he was younger is just not there like it was before. And you know, when he was younger, having TVs and having TVs and computers and stuff, those were luxury items, right? Today, the luxury item is housing, and you can get a TV for $30. It's flip-flopped. So when you're telling kids that stop, you know, don't buy yourself a computer, like you can't live in a world with a computer. Don't get yourself a cell phone. That's ridiculous. If I was to go into any office and say, I don't have a cell phone because Dave Ramsey told me I couldn't have one, your boss wouldn't even hire you in the first place. His information and advice is outdated for the younger generation. And that, I mean, I think he even knows that, because now if you listen to his podcast, it's not being run by him. It's run by his daughter and younger people that have a better mindset of what's actually happening today. I'll just leave that there. So Amanda says, no to using the federal state preserves. If we don't save the land now, there won't be any saving in the future. And I think that's why they tried to save it years and years and years ago, because they knew that, you know, people ruin everything. So they're like, okay, look, this is beautiful. We need to keep this for generations to come. We're not going to do that. Now, I will say there are federal lands, though, that are not, they're not meant for, you know, going hiking and looking at. They're just owned by the federal government. So if they want to open up those, have at it. You know, you want to add some, the housing density in that area, please do. But I don't want, like I said, I don't want the Grand Canyon or the Grand Tetons turning into a condo community. Call me crazy. Just a silly hippie, as they'd say.
Imagine the view.
Yeah, imagine the view, right? And you think that those condos would be affordable? You're out of your mind. If they were allowed to do that, those would be high-end, very expensive luxury communities, and that would be their second or third home. Like, anyways, Paul Resort says, trust in real estate moguls on the housing market. 51% say no. 5% said yes. Sometimes 23%. And somebody said, a lot of you said, 22% of you said, I trust no one. I trust no one. You know what? My dad always said, question everything. And I have for years. And I'm not saying you should ever listen to everything I say as God sent. Like, you should go out there and listen to lots of different people. You should read as many articles as you can. And just by listening to one or two of these very well-known real estate gurus, I don't think is necessarily the smartest move. I think you should listen to a lot of different things, and especially your own financial advisor. I will never, ever, ever think that renting is, for younger kids, the best situation 30 years down the road. I mean, I think you need to find a way to own something, because if you wait too long down the road, you may own nothing. And then you have nothing to borrow against. You're just sitting there, keep giving money to the landlord, and rents aren't getting any cheaper. So that's what. Yeah. Lumber says, damn. I was an art student there. Yay. Amsterdam. Yeah. Yep. Red light district. What's the smell in that area? It smells like a certain kind of garden, little herby smell. That's what it smells like in New Orleans. Rick Smith says, I hope all these people can afford to pay their student loans and a mortgage and insurance and everything else. Yeah. And food and just living today. Yep. Jivon said, hi, finally made it from the South Korea. Yay. Welcome. Good to see you. Gardening smell. A lot of laughs. I read about the truck that sprays lemon on the roads in New Orleans to cover up the smells. Yes. So at the end of the night, the bars close. They clean the streets. They have the street scrubbers out there, and the soap has a lemon smell, but it's only lasts for about 30 minutes. That's what it smells the absolute best. But when they have visitors coming in, they'll scrub it even more. And I swear to you, they're pumping that spray out there. You're like, why does it smell so fresh around here? It's because they're gassing it up so you don't smell the pee. Oh my gosh, we have a call. Eddie, go ahead and put the call on the screen. We totally forgot about that. Holy poop. If you guys want to have a call, if you want to call in a question next week, or even talk about some real estate mogul that you want to hear about, you can call this number 888-255-0197. That's 888-255-0197. Eddie, can you put the call on the screen, please, sir? You know what? I'm going to put the call on the screen.
Florida, Pensacola, Florida. My question is actually from on behalf of my sister. I am a fan of yours, so I watch your channel. And so let me tell you, my sister bought her first home in Sandy Springs, Georgia last October. The selling agent had flipped the house and also acted as my sister's buyer's agent. During the inspection, I asked about the septic system. The agent handed me a written receipt with a rough diagram claiming that the septic walls had been reinforced and that the tank was in good condition and should be lasting for years. So then on December, my sister moved in only to discover that the pipes leading to the septic tank were broken. All the sewage was leaking directly into the crawl space. And the cost to patch the tank to replace the pipes and clean the crawl space was around a little over $20,000. Then she had a quote for $50,000 for a full septic system replacement.
Oh, no.
On top of that, it was a very frustrating ordeal just to find professionals willing to take on the job. Kristina, we would really appreciate any advice you can offer. I've been a fan of yours and truly value the information you share with all of us. It's been a heartbreaking experience for my sister, especially with this being her first home that she has purchased.
Okie dokie. I have some advice for you. So I want you to get in touch with the people that reinforced the walls in that septic system in the first place. And when you get in touch with them, ask them, what kind of survey did you do on the septic system? Did you let the sellers know that there was other issues, or was it that you were only looking at the unit itself? When you did your inspection on this septic system, did you only look at the septic system, or did you look at the pipes as well? If they say, oh yeah, we looked at the pipes as well, I told them that most likely in the future they were going to need replaced. You have them write that down. If they're unwilling to write that down, you walk your happy rear end over to over to a lawyer's office, because you have yourself a case. The reason being is they withheld first of all, the real estate agent should have never been representing the house as well as the home buyer. They're put themselves in a position I would never put myself in. Legally, they can do it, but they're opening themselves up for a lawsuit. And the case being, you got yourself a house, you asked about the sewage, they gave you this report, they said it was fine, and then now you have all these problems with the pipes. If you can prove the fact that they knew that there was something wrong with the pipes and still had your sister purchase it without disclosing it, you got yourself a case. You got yourself a heck of a case. I would 100% get yourself an attorney ASAP, right away. If you're unsure if you should call the company that did the original reinforcement of that sewage system, if you're hiring an attorney, have the attorney call. Have the attorney call and get all the documentation you can, and make sure you document every situation from here on out of when you spoke to them, who you spoke to, how long you spoke to them. If you're in a state that you can record these conversations, start recording them. But don't record them if you can't, don't get yourself in trouble. But yeah, that's what I tell you do. Get yourself an attorney. Yep. How do you find a tiny home land that already has utilities, pipes, and electricity, water, sewer, or septic? So you can find land for a tiny home that's called recreational land. You can also find land that has a home on it, or a dilapidated house, or a dilapidated mobile home on it already. Sometimes they'll have a slab on there. That means if it has an old home on it, it has all utilities on it. And whenever you're looking for land, you can see what land improvements have been done to that piece of land. A lot of times when people are selling properties that was owned by a family, and they let the house go, or the mobile home go, they feel like it's really worth nothing at this point. They don't realize that because that has those improvements on it, that it actually has more value than a raw piece of land. And they'll price it in a way that it's just a raw piece of land, even though the utilities are there. Now, wise real estate agents that are listing it know what they have there, right? And they'll list it accordingly. But some real estate agents have no idea when it comes to a piece of dirt. They'll say, oh, well, it's dilapidated. That's going to cost them a lot to take down the structure and everything. And they'll price it as raw land, even though the utilities and the improvements have been put in there. And that to you is a benefit to you. And I will tell you that a lot of real estate agents that are not experienced in land don't know what they have, and they'll list it incorrectly. So that's what I'd say. Find yourself a piece of dirt that has an old structure on it, so you already have those utilities and improvements already done. That's what I'd say. Yep. Nathan Peter says, ultra wealthy bought their 3rd to 10th homes with many acres in Jackson. Prices went up through the roof in the late 90s and early 2000s. They will have to import their servant class to provide housing. I don't know if this, I don't know what you're talking about. Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Is that what you're talking about? Because this is happening in Montana too. It's really common that a lot of very wealthy areas that were once owned by ranchers are now owned by very wealthy people building their mansions, right? And then these towns that the housing was super affordable, there's nowhere for these people to move to because they've all been bought out by very wealthy people. So the towns are starting to suffer. And they're even offering jobs that, like a waitress job or, a checker at $30 an hour. It's still not enough for them to afford the rents in the area because it's now a vacation spot full of the ultra wealthy. So they're having a hard time keeping people employed there because the people that would be employed there have nowhere to live. And then they shoot down affordable housing, even apartments and condos in that area because they don't want it in their backyard, the NIMBYs. We're going to see that problem more and more if they don't allow for people. They're going to live in their nice gilded palaces, and then they're going to have nobody in the gas stations and the grocery stores and the insurance offices to help them when they need it because it's too unaffordable to live there. A lot of these places are addressing these problems by having temporary housing facilities there. But even then they whine about it. Those are ugly. We don't want them, blah, blah, blah. You can't have it both ways. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Well, her title insurance covers the title. It doesn't cover the actual sewage. The property disclosure that is filled out by the real estate agent because she owned it, she has to disclose by law everything she knew about the house, every single thing, right? And if she withheld that information, she in big trouble. And she's going to lose a lawsuit. So Noreen says Jackson has had a house issue for workers for years, perhaps decades. That is correct. Yep. Pam said, I would never want to live in your state. I don't blame you. Not everybody would want to live here. I've enjoyed it, but I'm ready to move. It has its ups. I think every area has its ups and downs. I don't think there's any utopia state or town anywhere, but we're going to move. We're moving. You heard it here first. We're not staying in Louisiana. We're moving soon. All right. Island Knight says, my prediction in the near future, owning a single family home, cookie cutter house will actually be pretentious. Who knows? Well, I don't want to be pretentious anymore and take up anybody more time. I just want to say to you, I hope you enjoy your Monday off. I hope you have tomorrow off and you have yourself a nice little barbecue. And next week, if you want to have your call answered and your question answered, you can call that number 888-255-0197. If you want to share this podcast with anybody, you can always go to anywhere you listen to podcasts, look up Kristina Smallhorn, Real Estate for Everyone, and you can share this podcast with your friends. If you happen to go over there, Eddie always asks my husband if you would give us a little 5-star review. He says it helps us along the way. So go ahead, share the episode and give us a little 5-star review. If you need to get a hold of me this week and you have a personal question or you're looking for a real estate agent in your area, you can always go to my website, KristinaSmallhorn.com. Click on one of the pink little tabs right there, fill out the form, and I will get in contact with you at my earliest convenience. Everybody, I'd like to say a very special thank you to our moderators today for keeping the chat clean, and I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Happy Memorial Day, everybody. Yay! Happy Memorial Day!